Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. I know that there's probably no one in here at this moment. Apologies again. I had a camera issue. Apparently, there's a physical button on my keyboard that turns off my camera function, and I had no idea. So I figured that out. Had to do a little research on some troubleshooting there, but always good. I will wait because that's my fault. But I appreciate those that jumped in immediately. Means a lot. Hope you guys had a great weekend, a great Super Bowl. It was a great game. Me personally, I was going for the Bengals, but I wasn't upset that the Rams won. It was a really good game. So um, appreciate you guys stopping by. Again, these are live seminars, and we will be taking questions that come up on the chat that are relevant to our, upcoming updates and our products that are coming through. I know there's a glare right here. I'm right next to a window, and the sun's peeking through at a really weird angle at this moment. So sorry about that if it's bothering you guys, but um, thank you again for stopping by. And again, community-driven, chat-driven discussion here. Again, any relevant topics you guys want to talk about our pending update, just hammer them away. We do have a couple of questions that were brought in on the Discord, that channel that I mentioned before, where people can go post them prior to these. Um, Yan wasn't able to make it today just because we got a lot going on the dev side. Um, as we speak, they're hammering it. The token layer, again, just making sure that the addresses of the different tokens that are being issued on testnet are all arriving. Very similar to I guess the best way I could describe this is like Ethereum and the different tokens that could be all associated to the same address, if that makes sense. Very similar, the way that this is kind of laying out a little bit. But again, we're in testnet, so that's what we're looking at right now, making sure that's going to be fluid. Um, Good note. I did want to just mention this so that people can know where to expect the first place to like be a part of this testnet layer. Me and Yan did discuss this in depth, and we have not like fully decided on how we're going to do this, but we have decided that we will do a some sort of an open testnet for those in the community to have access to a certain version of Yan Safe, as I'm understanding it correctly. Basically, like a test net, a test product on testnet, so that people can actually interact with the interface, mess around with what we're doing right now, and then maybe we'll find some other things that we need to address before we push it live. But we are excited to have other people involved, and especially not necessarily needing to be a developer by any means, because we're getting the product ready for you to interact with it. Otherwise, well, for instance, for example, the QT wallets, the old wallets that everyone's aware of, or maybe not, but the old QT wallets, right? That has token, it will have the code inside of it, but it'll be a way more of a hassle to interact with it. It'd be very similar to the command prompts that were needed to create a master node. Like, it's just difficult. Like, you can do it, but it's just annoying. So that's why Yan Safe is very, vital for this update, making sure that it's working properly, that it's receiving all the information from the chain properly. So if it's a different token, different value, different data, it's all being recognized on a nice interface that's easy to understand and easy to use. So that's what we're making sure is ready to go for a test net for you guys to be a part of if you wish to. And then we'll be able to push that live. So Yan Safe is very vital for this update, and we're pretty excited at the stage that we're at right now. Hey guys, appreciate you guys stopping by. Good evening to you. It's 2 p.m. for me, but I think Yan's time. So when he was on these seminars with me, I believe it was like 9 o'clock for him. So that's a 7-hour difference. It's crazy how that's other side of the world. It's dark. So again, yeah, if you guys had any questions, I mean, feel free. I am gonna go back and forth. If I don't see the questions, because I'm reading over my notes I had prepared for this. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, 9 o'clock for you, Paul. Yeah, so you probably have the same time zone as Yan, if I was right in what he said last week. Okay, well, cool. A couple cool things that me and Yan were actually talking about today. Just interesting information about IPFS and just different things that we figure out to add different features or maybe see if it's even possible with IPFS. Um, just to like kind of break it down, what is really cool about what you can do with NFTs and how we can tie it to IPFS, for backup for NFTs, etc. Think of a zip file, and Yan was kind of explaining this to me today. A zip file where you may have multiple, in one folder. Um, it's possible for you to have an NFT to where you have multiple files inside of that one NFT. So, for an example, an NFT album with multiple songs, multiple files within that album, if that makes sense. So, really cool the different things that you can do with NFTs. It's not just all necessarily, um, as it's personified today, like for one specific use. I did see an article earlier this week that the first this firm, real estate firm, they had their first sale, and I believe it was in not their first sale, but their first sale in the United States, and I believe it was in Florida or one of the states over on the East Coast. Sold a house using NFTs as the contract for ownership. So there's a lot of different ways that NFTs can be utilized, not just necessarily for art, but speaking of art, it goes a lot further than just pictures and things like that. Kid me not, that's obviously part of the art category, but art is video games, music, TV, movies, books. That's all art. It's all part of it. And I think a lot of that gets looked over in today's society, but this is going to really be, I think, vital for people to recognize like ownership of your creation is important and valuable. And look how valuable the NFT scene has already like just jumped into. New creators being recognized for their talents, and eventually the other industries will start adding that to everyday life, in my opinion. Can you give an indication when the new website will come? I can't give a specific date. The developer that we have specifically working on that, developers, I should say, they have it planned out and organized into phases. So our vision of how we want our website to be is not very standard. Not just a black and white text website, not just a standard website either. We want custom animation. Yan's involved in that and really like the vision of how we want to push that website, not just Yan, but everyone involved. But it's not just a one person task or something that I can really give a definitive timeline answer on, because a lot of it is it's creative designs of how we want things to work. It's got to represent our branding, not someone else's, our style kind of thing. So I believe that we were waiting on phase three of I think 6 phases. Phase three to be completed to move on to 4 and 5 that are pushed together, which would be more of the creative design phase, and then us like critiquing things. And then obviously the last phase would be a final review of everything involved. So I'm still shooting for quarter 1, absolutely, but that's not something that I can be definitive on because I don't have all the answers on that, to be honest. Yeah, mineral rights, NFTs. I did read a short article on that on Twitter, little um, link attached. But yeah, that's kind of what I was going off on a little tangent on there. NFTs is verification, ownership purposes, land, real estate, things like that. As long as the technology is used by those that make it official, you could start talking about patents and trademarks, registrations, all those things. Those are ownership based. Some of them, if you think about them, need to be renewed. So I don't know how that would work with NFT technology being used, because you can't really renew something unless it's built into the contract within the NFT. Then there you go. But that being said, can we expect the network update in quarter 1 still? Yeah, yes, absolutely. If it's not in quarter 1, then it's way there's something wrong with where we're at, because like I said, we're at testnet phase. And when I say by released in the end of quarter by the end of quarter 1, if you didn't catch the very beginning of it, of this seminar, we do want to do a public test net with the Yan Safe product though. So meaning Yan Safe product would be on the test net, and it would be the test version of the product to where everyone can interact with the new interface, the token, the mint NFT layer, all the different things that are going to be part of this update. That will be presented definitely before the end of quarter 1. And bearing any setbacks there, I would see that not being an issue for mainnet to be pushed. So I'm still expecting it to be done in quarter 1, absolutely. But then again, as I mentioned before many times on these live seminars, I don't give specific dates and announcements on these seminars. These are mainly for, like, if anyone has specific questions on like our internal work or our stages where we're at, stuff like that. Eventually, like when we get to the point of pushing the update live, we'll have that testnet option available first to not only get more eyes on what we're working on, but then also to get more eyes on the documentation behind it. There's just a lot of different moving parts part of this update, and it's going to be something that I'm really proud to present to you guys. And that's why there's so much sweat and tears and passion being put into this over the past couple months, past year really, since the inception of IPFS being basically looked at by us and realizing like, that could scale across, or we could potentially scale it across, or just regardless, start creating products that utilize IPFS technology. And there, you could create so many different use cases for Packet if you attach those two things together, which is the vision that we had, the vision that we push forward with. And I think it's been very beneficial, not only just for the ideas that we've been able to come up with, but the partners that we've been able to establish and the different communications. So I do see regularly, in the Discord chats, a lot of people specifically want to target price points or, you know, comparing a masternode reward to a value of fiat, which, some, if you want to do that, you could do that. But at the end of the day, this network is being built to establish a long-term use case, which is a long-term, I always use the same kind of parable or comparison of pack protocol and master nodes and why it's important to grow the network. I always use cell phone networks and their towers. The Super Bowl, the Super Bowl had many commercials for cell phone companies, specifically talking about why their network is better because of the coverage, why their network is better because of how much their coverage is, or how many towers they have versus the competitor on the new technology, the new 5G technology. You see that, they talk about why it's better to have more towers. And that's why I always use that, because you have the same infrastructure with Pack Protocol having so many towers or so many masternodes potentially spread all over the world, owned by so many different owners, and you can have so many different use cases now that are being pushed, presented to these people owning these towers. Like you don't just present it to Verizon and they would then buy you out or take control of it because it's their. That doesn't happen in a situation like this. You can attach so many different use cases to a pack tower, a pack master node, and using IPFS to be that database to provide that redundant solution, or just give that database types feel for any kind of marketplace or use case that gets presented with NFTs. It's really cool stuff, and I think everyone will finally see that when we get everything out in front of you guys, and it'll be a really cool year. Will the pack rewards get less as the amount of pack locked up in Masternode nears the total supply? I think what you're saying is, would you be rewarded less if there's more masternodes on the network? You don't get rewarded less. The reward total is still the same as far as amount of pack inside the reward. Like one reward has the same amount of pack, unless there's a network change, but that hasn't, so far, that hasn't been changed since the last update to the Masternode reward system. The only thing that would change is that the time in between getting rewarded would be longer, because if there's, for example, 20,000 masternodes, then there's 40,000 masternodes. you have to wait through that cycle, unless there is a different reward mechanism that gets presented that makes sense, that doesn't, change inflation of the network. But I think that would be kind of impossible without sticking true to the actual scale to the reward system. But it could always, change in the future. You never know. It just depends on how that gets thought up. Jack Tito, I'm going to save this question for the next seminar where we have Yan available, because I know for a fact he'd love to expand on that, because that was a topic that we talked about on one of the last seminars that he was on, about can a file be deleted on Yan DNA. Uh, Yan DNA, you have to understand Yan DNA is it's a interface. It's a product that we're offering. So there's always going to be some sort of like connection control, not control, but there is always going to be a point of how is Yan DNA connecting to the IPFS network. It has to be done manually by someone. So I would love him to be part of this question, because what we were talking about deleting files is we would not be able to see your file, because we weren't part of the encryption process. The encryption process of your files that are being uploaded are done by your like password. It's your key, your encryption. So we don't have those. We wouldn't be able to even pull up that file and or view the content. But however, the hash can be taken away, from our product, so that you can't interact with that hash. You can't blah, blah, blah. So in the event that it is required that a certain file is taken down or whatever, like we're just thinking, ahead situational. But yeah, I'll have Yan be a part of this question because I think he would love to expand on that. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only way we can give definitive dates, Paul, of when we're going live is when the product is 100% in hand and stamped and done. Then we can just prepare our, marketing or branding campaign to get more people in the know that something's available or about to be available, and then everyone can, participate in the actual launch of it. So that's why I say that I don't give definitive stuff here, because we have to be organized, and not only just telling, you guys, the community, but there could be a lot of other individuals that find this token layer implementation on Pack Protocol very unique. We know it's very unique. We actually very much expected to have a cloning situation where people are going to be copying what we're doing here once this goes live. And when it does, you'll understand why I'm saying that. It's one of those, we're going to be on one of those networks that it's not something that can be copied. I'm really proud of it. So when that happens, we're going to make sure that we give enough time to get enough people, get as much people as we can aware of the update being launched, aware of the NFT capabilities, aware of the Yan token, aware of the ability to purchase, quote unquote, purchase storage via Yan DNA, which is something that we're looking into, not only looking into, we will be doing. That Yan DNA, obviously if you have Yan token, you can reserve storage space. You deposit it, you don't give it to anyone, you use it as quote unquote collateral. But there will also be the avenue of purchasing storage space via credit card. That's something that we're going to implement eventually, which, it's something that we all feel is 100% needed for the mainstream user that doesn't necessarily interact with crypto on a daily day, basis. You can already see the different, providers that exist out there that allow people to interact with crypto by using a debit card, or vice versa, when in reality it's just APIs on the back end doing the crypto asset switching for you, but the user is still using the new technology. So it's getting more people involved, and that's what we want to do with Yan DNA, to be just to be honest, to be able to compete with the fact that data storage, that's a big sector in the world. There are huge providers already for that. Not necessarily using the technology that we're bringing to the table, but allowing it to expand and people to be able to be part of it using just a credit card. It's something that we will be adding to Yan DNA 100%. Um, Good question. Would the fee change for creating a new token on Pack Protocol if pack price changes or stay fixed? The only way that that'll ever change is if there's a majority consensus wide update pushed to make changes like that. Because, like for instance, we've pushed updates in the past to change transaction fees amounts or to change the amount of pack that is required for collateral to make a proposal on the network. Those are different changes that would go wide network wide, but only if consensus is reached. So in the event that what the scenario that you're talking about, like the price changes to a point where maybe something is not, um, I guess, cheap enough or useful enough, or it's too expensive to interact with it, it's something to keep in mind. Like for example, well, one example I can give, I think, is XRP. On XRP's network, you have to have a certain amount of XRP to create a new account, if I'm not mistaken. A new account meaning a new wallet on the network. So let's just say, for example, XRP goes to a certain astronomical number or whatever, it doesn't matter. In those events, would they change the amount of XRP needed to make a new account? I don't know, possibly, maybe it would make sense to make it actually scalable. But again, those are network-wide updates. So the same would go for Pack. Um, in the event that maybe the master network needs to grow more for whatever reason later down in the line, and maybe 500,000 pack is just not available or not convenient for a lot of people. Maybe a change is needed then. But again, that's just talking hypothetical. But I do like the question because it's one that people need to pay attention to and realize is that the only way changes that happen like that are going to be blockchain consensus based. There are a lot of projects out there that can do that themselves because they own consensus or they limit the amount of validators or full nodes or master nodes that are capable, or they centralize it for whatever reason, to each their own. But Pack Protocol is not a network like that. It's a network that is completely open for anyone to participate in being a network validator or a network provider, because the amount of master nodes that grow doesn't change the fact that you still need majority consensus to push the network update and for it to actually start working on the specific block that it's supposed to change or fork. So I think that's a good point to bring out. The fees are burned. Fees are burned, but again, well, let's see. You're talking about. Oh, okay, you're talking about them creating a new token. Anytime that you have a transaction fee, yeah, the fees are going to be burned. It's not like like it's not like Bitcoin where the transaction fees are also going to be part of the mining fee. That's not how Pack Protocol works. Any transaction fees that are from the network, like it's like basically you're paying the network, but like those coins go like to a black hole in the network, so to speak. Like they're not coming back out into circulation. So the supply, in a sense, like Pack is a deflationary asset, if you want to call it that, of like uh, transactions, the amount of supply goes down. Super block, 160 million, give or take, 170 million pack is available every single month to be distributed. If it doesn't get distributed, black hole goes away. Amount of supply, max supply goes lower. So same thing for creating, any kind of transaction. If there's a transaction fee, it's going to the pack, pack, the pack black hole. XRP reduced it from 20 to 10, went to $1 for wallet reserve, and reduced the reservation for. Okay, so yeah, so they push those updates, and I mean the only way that's going to happen is if they obviously have consensus on their network, and they have a different situation as far as masternode versus validators. The validators that are trusted versus the ones that are not. So which again, to each their own. I'm not talking negatively. I'm just saying there's different ways that different networks reach consensus. Okay. Yan token will have its own supply. The way that initiating a new token on Pack, like I mentioned before, is kind of a collateral event. I mean, you'll understand what I mean by that when we get into like a public testnet. But essentially, the amount of Pack that is being used to create the supply um, has a lot to do with the total supply of the token being issued. So um, considering the fact that 100 yan per token, not per token, sorry, 100 yan per reward is how we're basing, the supply of yan to be dealt with. So when you get a masternode reward, 100 yan will also be sent to the reward address, etc. I think we've gone over that quite a bit to understand that. But you have to also look at the longevity of the pack chain itself and how its average block time is supposed to last this chain for another 9 years, give or take. So 100 yan times 365, right? Let's just do this math real quick. This is best way I can explain this. 100 yan times 576 blocks a day on average, times, not plus. And then you times that by 365, just to give yourself an average. If everything was perfect, 21,024,000 would be the supply of yan in 1 month, in 1 year, if everything went exactly, timed as far as blocks go. So times that by 9 years, and that's 189 million supply, 216,000. So 189,216,000. So in the event, that nothing were to change in the longevity of how, and what I mean by the longevity of Pax chain, let me correct that. That's not what I meant. What I meant by was the supply of Pack, the rate of how it's diversified amongst the network, as far as masternode rewards and proof of stake rewards, to reach 50 billion as max supply, which includes the monthly allocation of coins towards Superblock, that if they're used, if they're not, it doesn't matter. It still includes that in the equation. It would take roughly 9 years to reach that 50 billion or less, because of if Superblocks haven't been used, like the past couple months haven't been used. So the supply is obviously lower. So give or take 9 years, multiply that by average of what it would be if yan were also be roughly 189 million. So the supply theoretically could be higher than that, just to, put an even round number on it. But that also doesn't mean that masternode rewards will stop after 9 years, because like I just mentioned, we were just talking about, and I hope everyone hears that because it's super important. Any changes to the network, whether supply, which FYI to those that do not know, packed supply used to be 100 billion, and we pushed a update to the network for a consensus agreement to lower it to 50 billion. So vice versa, that can very easily happen to any network, not just packed. I'm just saying those are updates that can be pushed, that if agreed upon, supply could be continued, blah blah blah, in the event it makes sense. But we're talking theoretical, we're talking 9+ years from now. Things change, innovations change, we might not even be discussing the same topic. So I know I kind of little ranted a little bit there, but it was a good question, because supply can be changed based off consensus. And as far as yan goes, I want to base it as close as possible to Pax masternode reward supply, so it makes sense, which would be roughly 200 million. So but then again, that could be also altered in the future. Hey, this update fix bug. Will this update fix bugs that prevent ledger integration? It wasn't necessarily this update that needed to happen. The whole token layer and all that stuff. But during this work, it has been finally sorted of what the issue was. So I'm not sure if this update will be will include Ledger, but we do have a submission, I believe, to Ledger that is in review. So when we get more information on that, we'll definitely talk about it. Are there any other plans for Yan being collateral for other products except data storage? I mean, potentially. Potentially. The reason why Yan was the name of the token was to like give a specific use case for it, as in Yan DNA for data storage. And to be clear, the collateral isn't really like collateral that's being recognized as collateral on the chain. It's being recognized as collateral on the product side on Yan DNA, so that your given amount of storage that is available on the network. So that could be done in many different ways. Not only is Yan just going to be used that way because the product is asking for it to be used that way, but it's a token. You know, it could be used in the way of acquiring content, acquiring NFTs, acquiring files. We do have plans to kind of integrate a marketplace with Yan DNA in the future, to where people can share their files, share their content. Require someone to give them X amount of Yan to see the content, things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be NFTs to distribute, content like that, but it has to be done responsibly, especially as us as the product maker, because you put a responsibility on that, of what happens on your platform. So absolutely, there are different ways that Yan will be able to be used, the token Yan. But we'll get, one step at a time. We'll get the Yan DNA out, Yan Safe out. I think a lot of people are going to have plenty of time and plenty to do when this update comes out, as far as you go into Yan Safe and you see mint NFT. How do I do that? Well, because the network is going to be NFT compliant, you're going to be able to, mint NFTs on our chain. You're going to be able to do a lot of cool stuff on Pack Protocol that wasn't even in the playbook 2 years ago. So I'm really, really happy for it. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone for stopping by. We're approaching. No, we already passed the 30-minute mark. So I do thank you, Paul. Thank you, Def, for Canamando. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these all correct or incorrect. Jack Tito. I appreciate you guys stopping by and posting your questions. I know it's not always the best time for anyone, but we will jump around different days, give different times, so different people in different time zones can jump in here and be a part of these discussions. But again, appreciate you guys stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.